Have you ever had one of those days where it feels like everyone is just out to test your patience? Maybe it starts with a rude driver cutting you off, then someone at the grocery store speaks to you like you're invisible, and by the time you get home, even the smallest things, like the TV remote not working, feel like the universe is pushing all your buttons. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. We've all been there. And while a younger version of us might have snapped or stewed in silence, there comes a time in life, especially after 60, when we begin to ask ourselves, is it really worth getting angry over? The truth is, as we get older, our time becomes more precious. Our energy becomes more valuable. And what we choose to hold on to emotionally, well, that matters more than ever. Anger, frustration, irritation, these aren't just uncomfortable feelings. They take up space. They weigh us down. But here's the good news. We don't have to carry them. We can learn to move through life with a lighter heart and a calmer mind, no matter what others throw our way. In this video, we're going to have a gentle but powerful conversation about how to stop getting angry or bothered by people. Not by shutting down or pretending things don't affect us, but by learning to respond differently, more peacefully, more wisely. We'll explore real-life ways to shift our mindset, protect our peace, and feel more in control, even when the world around us isn't. Let's begin with something simple but transformative: learning to pause. You see, most of the time when we get angry, it's not because someone else made us angry. It's because we reacted without thinking. A snarky comment, a dismissive tone, a cold shoulder, it all hits us in an instant, and before we know it, our emotions are running the show. But imagine what would happen if instead of jumping straight into a reaction, we gave ourselves just a little space. A pause. A breath. That one moment of stillness can mean the difference between peace and regret. It might sound small, but the next time someone upsets you, try this. Take a slow, deep breath. Let your shoulders relax. Remind yourself, I don't have to react right now. That simple pause puts you back in the driver's seat of your emotions. It gives you the power to choose what comes next, instead of being swept away by the moment. And this brings us to something else that makes a big difference: not taking things personally. As we age, we've lived through enough to know that most of the time, people's behavior has very little to do with us. That grumpy store clerk? Maybe she's going through a divorce. That rude neighbor? Maybe he's battling a health issue no one knows about. People are carrying invisible burdens every day, and often their behavior is just a reflection of their inner world, not a statement about you. When we stop assuming that every slight or sharp word is aimed at us, we free ourselves from a huge emotional burden. We begin to realize that people's actions are often more about their pain than our worth. So instead of letting their negativity pull you in, let it roll off you like water off a duck's back. You're not here to absorb everyone's stress, you're here to live in peace. Of course, that doesn't mean we should let people walk all over us. Boundaries matter. But there's a difference between setting a boundary and getting pulled into a battle. One comes from strength, the other comes from reactivity. And when we start choosing peace over drama, something beautiful happens. We begin to feel lighter, freer, happier. Now, I know this isn't always easy, especially when the people bothering us are close to us, family, friends, or even our own children. But even in those situations, we can create a different response, one that honors our feelings without letting anger take over. And it starts by choosing to see the situation with new eyes, not from a place of judgment, but from a place of curiosity. Why is this person acting this way? What might they be feeling? Shifting from judgment to curiosity is one of the kindest things we can do, for others and for ourselves. Think about it like this: every moment you spend angry is a moment of your life you'll never get back. Every time you allow someone else's behavior to disturb your peace, you're giving them a piece of your time, your health, your joy. and you deserve better than that. You deserve to live each day with a sense of calm, no matter what chaos may be swirling around you. So start small. Notice your breath. Notice your thoughts. Remind yourself that you don't need to control anyone else. You just need to stay centered in yourself. And remember, people are going to be who they are. But you get to decide who you want to be in response. The more you choose calm, the more it becomes your natural state. And soon you'll find that the things that used to bother you just don't. Now that we've begun exploring how to pause and not take things personally, let's continue this journey and look deeper into how we can build an unshakable sense of peace within ourselves, even when life gets loud. So we've talked about the power of pausing and the freedom that comes from not taking things personally. But what happens when those little irritations start to pile up? You know the kind I'm talking about. The neighbor who always parks a little too close. The family member who never calls back. The stranger who snaps at you for no reason at all. It might seem small in the moment, but over time, those frustrations can add up and leave you feeling heavy and tired, emotionally worn out. That's why the next piece of this puzzle is learning how to protect your inner space. Because here's the truth. Peace isn't just something that happens. It's something we create. And like a garden, it needs to be tended to. Every day, in small ways, we either nurture our peace or we let it get trampled. And most of the time, it's not the big events that disturb it. It's the little things we let build up without noticing. Think of your inner space like your home. Would you let someone track mud all over your clean floors without saying a word? Of course not. You'd wipe it up, ask them to take off their shoes, maybe even close the door next time. It's the same with your peace. You don't need to slam the door on people. But you can quietly and firmly close it when someone brings too much mess into your mental and emotional space. Sometimes that means limiting how much time you spend with certain people. Sometimes it means choosing not to respond to every opinion or provocation. And sometimes it simply means walking away. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know your peace is more valuable than being right. And here's another thing to remember. Not everything needs your reaction. Not every comment deserves a response. Not every argument is worth your energy. As we get older, one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves is learning to let things be. You don't have to chase down every misunderstanding. You don't have to defend yourself every time someone gets it wrong. You can just let go. Let them think what they want. Let them say what they will. And meanwhile, you stay calm. You stay clear. You stay free. Now that doesn't mean you become passive or stop caring. In fact, it's the opposite. When you stop being ruled by anger, you're finally able to care more deeply, without getting lost in the chaos. You start showing up in the world with strength, not just sensitivity. And that's where your power really grows. Let me share a little story that might help bring this to life. I once spoke with a woman in her 70s who told me she used to get angry all the time at her husband, her kids, the news, everything. It made her tired. It made her anxious. And most of all, it made her feel like life was passing her by, one argument at a time. Then one day, she said, I just stopped. Not because something magical happened, but because she realized the anger wasn't changing anyone. It was only changing her, and not in a good way. So she started doing something simple. Whenever she felt that old familiar heat rising in her chest, she would smile. Not a fake smile, but a soft one, just to herself. That little smile was her way of saying, I see you, anger, but I'm not going there today. And over time, that small habit rewired the way she responded. She didn't ignore what upset her, but she didn't let it own her anymore. Isn't that powerful? Imagine being able to smile at irritation, to nod at it gently, then move on. That kind of peace isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And it's a kind of wisdom that doesn't require age, but is so much sweeter when it comes with it. Of course, we're human. There will still be moments when we feel that spark of anger or hurt. That's okay. The goal isn't to never feel anything. The goal is to choose how long we stay there. 1 minute of anger is understandable. But staying angry for hours, days, or even years? That's a choice, and it's one we don't have to keep making. So the next time someone bothers you, try this. Don't jump into fixing or reacting. Just pause, smile, let it be, and ask yourself, is this worth giving my peace away for? Most of the time, the answer will be no. And in those rare moments when it's yes, when something truly needs to be addressed, you'll be able to do it from a place of clarity, not chaos. You'll find that people stop getting under your skin when you stop handing them the key to your emotions. And that's the shift that changes everything. Not because people get better, but because you do. You become calmer, kinder, stronger. Not in spite of life's challenges, but because of how you rise above them. Let's keep going, because the deeper we go into this, the clearer it becomes. Your peace isn't something the world gives you, it's something you claim for yourself. Let's bring it home. By now, you've probably started to feel a quiet shift. Maybe it's the idea that you don't have to carry every frustration that comes your way. Or maybe it's the realization that peace isn't something you have to go searching for. It's something you build, moment by moment, choice by choice. And that brings us to something that changes everything: self-awareness. It's a gentle practice, not a harsh judgment. It's simply noticing. Noticing when your heart starts to race or your jaw tenses up. Noticing the stories you begin to tell yourself, like "they don't respect me" or "people never change." Self-awareness isn't about blaming yourself. It's about stepping back, taking a breath, and seeing things clearly. It's the difference between being caught in a storm and watching it from the window. The storm still happens, but it doesn't have to sweep you away. One way to build this awareness is by checking in with yourself throughout the day. Not in a dramatic or heavy-handed way, just a quiet question. How am I feeling right now? If the answer is tight, tense, bothered, then you pause. You breathe. You remember, you have a choice. You don't have to follow the emotion down every path it wants to take. You can simply observe it and let it pass like a cloud. Another tool that helps keep us steady is compassion, not just for others, but for ourselves. Because the truth is, we all get it wrong sometimes. We snap at someone we love. We stew in anger longer than we should. We let little things ruin a perfectly good day. That doesn't mean we've failed. It means we're human. The more compassion you show yourself, the more naturally it flows outward. And when we begin to see others with that same softness, with that "they're just doing the best they can" kind of understanding, so many of our triggers start to dissolve. Now, some people might hear all this and think, that sounds nice, but it's not how the world works. But here's what I'll say to that. Maybe the world doesn't work that way, but you can. And if you can, you just might inspire someone else to try. And little by little, that's how things change. Because here's the thing, when you carry peace within you, people notice. Not always in words, but in the way they feel around you. You become the calm in their storm, the steady in their chaos, the gentle presence that doesn't rise to every jab or jolt. And that kind of energy is powerful. It can shift a conversation. It can soften someone's anger. It can create room for connection, even when disagreement is in the air. I once met a man in his 80s who told me something I'll never forget. He said, "The older I get, the more I realize I don't have time to waste on things that steal my peace. I want my days to feel light. I want to laugh more than I grumble. And if someone wants to be difficult, that's their choice. But I don't have to join them in it." What a beautiful reminder. Because in the end, we don't get to choose what people say or how they behave. but we do get to choose whether we let it into our hearts. And that choice, more than anything else, defines how we feel at the end of the day. So if you're watching this and thinking, it sounds good, but I'm not there yet, that's okay. You're not alone. None of us start at peace. We grow into it. Every breath you take instead of reacting, every smile you give instead of snapping, every moment you choose to walk away instead of argue, that's you growing stronger. That's you choosing peace. And the beauty of it all? It's never too late. Whether you're 60, 70, or 95, your mind and your spirit are still listening. They're still learning. And they're still capable of change. That spark inside you, the one that wants to live lighter, feel freer, love deeper, it's still alive. All it needs is your permission. So here's what I invite you to do. Give yourself that permission. To be softer without being weak. To be calmer without being distant. To be the one in the room who doesn't rise to every challenge, but who rises above it. And if you ever forget how, just come back to this truth. You don't have to be unshakable to have peace. You just have to be willing. Willing to pause. Willing to choose kindness. Willing to let go of what doesn't serve you. Because in the end, life isn't measured by how often people push your buttons. It's measured by how often you protect your joy, no matter what. If this message spoke to your heart today, I'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts or experiences in the comments. I read every single one. And if you found even a little bit of peace in our time together, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. There's so much more to explore, and I'd love to keep walking this journey with you. Until next time, take care of your heart, honor your peace, and remember, the world may never stop trying to shake you, but you don't have to let it. Here's to living your best life, one peaceful moment at a time.